go ahead and call the meeting to order. Henderson City Council, Wednesday, September 16th. I will be looking for a motion on the minutes.
So moved.
Got a motion on the minutes? Any second?
Second.
A motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. There. Looks like we got Steve. Are you? Yeah. Come on up.
Hey. Are you on me right here?
Yeah, right there. Yeah. Make sure your mic has a little green thing on it. If not, just push the button on it. There you go.
All right, we're on. Just here, a couple of things. I don't know if any of you have been up on top of the hill and checked out, but Barrett's pretty much got that little development done for me. One thing we're missing is some power, and they're gonna do that for part of next week, so the curb and gutter in, blacktops in, pond's been working perfectly, I think.
Good.
Having a big rain we've been having, so everything looks pretty good up there, so.
I just had one question, and I have not been up there recently. So there's the cul-de-sac is paved, is what you're saying, and then the road to your house is gravel, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then when I was up there, there wasn't a turnaround on that gravel.
There is not a turnaround on that gravel. You have to go into the driveway, into my driveway.
So from a technical standpoint, like, and the reason I'm thinking like safety and fire, right? So you bring a fire truck down there, how do they literally have to go technically out of town into your private property to turn around? Okay. All right.
I mean, unless you really want one there. I mean,
And
there's a place to turn, that we could do one there.
And the only reason I say that is because I thought we had talked about that. And so I went up there, I was like, oh, this is great and looking good. And I was just like, and then it's just super uncomfortable to drive into your place to turn around. But if everyone else is cool with it, that's fine. But I don't know. I'm not a city streets person, so maybe Robin's got more on that. Is it okay to have a dead end essentially like that? Or maybe, Randy, you too.
Okay, but mine is that way. Yeah.
Yours
Yeah,
is-
Janet's is that way too.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, we've been up to Steve's and we just turn around in his yard.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
There's plenty of room,
Lots of
more
room.
room to turn around in my yard,
Then I'll,
big truck, than it would be if we make a turnaround at
Okay.
at the end of the city.
6th Street,
I mean, not that
7th Street, they're all that way. There's no
Okay.
turnaround on Main Street.
We certainly could there, right on the end of that pond, there's an area that we could.
Okay.
But,
All right. Yeah, that was the only kind of thing that came up as I was thinking about it. It looked great though, otherwise. Exciting stuff going on up there.
I think they did a good job, and everything like I say. And we're gonna I'm putting a street light in the end of that cul-de-sac, so. I'm in that cul-de-sac.
Oh, good. Nice.
So, but yeah, if you got any questions or anything? I think it looks good.
Mm-hmm.
Like I say, the pond has been working excellent. I mean, the last 2 or 3 rains we had, the big ones, there's probably been 2 feet of water in that pond, and it stays there probably 24 hours before it's gone.
And that's that new one that we designed. Good.
good, yeah.
So,
To me, it's working perfect if it's just slowly letting it out.
yeah, and it's not overtopping, so that's great.
Yeah, so
Cool.
I think everything's going good.
I'm glad we made the changes to that then. Good job.
Looks very nice.
I guess the other thing I'm here for, I bought those 2 lots right on top of the hill there and on the end of Maple Ridge. The Hagen's have.
Yep.
Bought that here, so we just wanted to build a couple houses there and just looking for some, you're still helping out with the building permits or not.
I would say yes.
I've never not said yes. I'm a big fan of, if you're going to put that kind of money into the town, I think the town's very happy and we'll take that. But
I've got one in the basement already dug, and I've got some people that are gonna build on the other one too. I think here within the next week or so.
so this request is for both?
I just soon request for both of them.
Okay.
I'll make that a motion that we waive the permit fees as we have in the past.
Okay. All right. Got a motion. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Got a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. All right, excellent. Are those Westridge 1 and 2?
Westridge 1 and 2. No, they're Maple Ridge.
No, they're Westridge.
But they're on the Westridge side, but the address is actually.
The address is, but no, I'm saying it's in Westridge Development, lots 1 and 2. Yes.
But it's in Maple Ridge.
Yeah. Excellent.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Like I said, drive up there.
Check it out.
Everything is done, so.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
All right, Jeff Steinborn. Come on up to the hot mic.
This is in regard to the property at 306 Main Street. That property is in my name, and we demolished the residence 2 years ago and discontinued the water service 2 years ago. What I'm asking the council is, I understand paying all the surcharges and the fees. Would the council be willing to waive 1 year's worth of water fees, which I have comes to $175?
These are costs from Evolution?
Yep.
Okay.
I would say yes, if the lawn is kept.
Just the
clean,
water
the
fees, I
property
haven't
looks
used any
nice.
water for 2 years, but this is only 1 year's worth of water that I'm referring to.
Okay, that's fine. I don't,
Jeff, would you want it moving forward until something happens with that?
Yes. What I did do with the city is filled out the form to disconnect the service, even though the service has been cut off physically 2 years ago. I understand that those charges are going to keep coming in every month for the special assessment and the base fees, but I'm just talking about the water usage fees.
Does he have to have base fee if there's nothing on the property, if it's?
Depends on what he wants to do. If he never wants to develop there again, no. But if he does, then you have to re-waive those fees. No, so the intent would be that there would be no fee waivers, that he would have to re-hook back up again. So you'd have to pay $12,000 in fees. Because basically, you're taking the service out. Anybody that's got a service to their property gets charged for it.
I don't know when it's going to be developed. The plan was to right away. That's all changed. So I guess I would like to cut it off now, from now forward.
okay, so, but there won't be any physical changes to the property at this point? I mean,
Right.
that's already been cut off, so
Right.
it's just a technicality, essentially, at this point?
Kind of, yeah.
You're still paying into the water and the sewer,
Right.
the surcharges, so to me, that's for that bigger thing moving forward, but I'm okay with it. So, make a motion?
Yeah, I just don't know how to make the motion. What do you want
Just,
the motion to say?
he filled the application out.
Yep.
So just approve the application.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve the application filled out by Jeff Steinborn.
All right, got a motion, got a second.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
I-
Opposed, same sign. Abstain. I abstain from that one.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right, anyone else to appear before the council? Come on up. Oh, and just so we get it on the record, make sure you state your name and address.
Address, did you say that?
Yeah, your name and address, that's
Okay.
all.
I am Adam Lawrence, 406 North 5th Street. It's just, basically it's about, my concern is hiring some construction company to mow our dike and, do things like that when they have signs out north of town, white lives matter more and need more fentanyl. To me, that associates with the town of Henderson. It just as an employee or a public figure, as a teacher, I would have that in my yard. I'd be looking for a new job. So I know it's in the past, they've done those things, but maybe that should be taken into consideration. That being said, I understand how freedom of speech and that stuff works. I don't know how far this can go, but I just wanted to put that out there that maybe that should be put into consideration moving forward. So thanks for your time.
And
Do you know what I'm talking about?
so, yeah, I do, but for posterity's sake, no one who would ever listen to this recording does.
Okay.
So,
Sure.
so that's, so if you could be a little more detailed, that would be helpful.
Sure, so the signs, you know what I'm talking about, Catosics, that have out in front of in their field, that says White Lives Matter More, and then parentheses, need more fentanyl, that's a shot at Prince, which however you feel about that. But that's concerning having, a daughter and a wife of a minority. There's other minorities in my distant family, in our community. I think that's a shot. If we have that type of construction company working for the town of Henderson, I think that somewhat reflects our town and what messages that sent. So in the past, can't control that. That was before that, you know, but moving forward in further projects, maybe that's something we take into consideration. So does that help?
That is excellent. Yes, thank you.
Thank you for bringing that before us. And
Thank you guys for your time.
Yeah, you bet.
Thanks, Adam.
So I just want to, did you guys want to discuss that any further as a council, or where you
Well,
guys
I
at?
think, I mean, there's another person that works for town that has, profanity on his fence in his yard too. You know, so if it's something we're gonna do, it's not just that singular person.
Mhm.
And he's actually running for city council
Mhm.
also, so.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the projects don't come before us for approval necessarily. There are smaller projects that just get handled by city administrator without us approving the particular contractor or whatever. Don't you agree?
Well, and
Yeah.
I think that has to be.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think that,
So then, do we make that request? I mean, a formality, or it gets too broad then? Because it's because if it comes before us, then we can have a say about it. But if it doesn't, then it's harder for us to have a say in it unless something else happens.
I think if we do anything or anybody does anything, we would have to do a city policy for city staff to follow. And that's if we do anything.
Because, and I'm with you, because what I may deem in the moment today to be offensive, for lack of a better term. If you have a policy, it sets it forward for the future. And who knows what 10 years, who knows what 10 years from now might look like. So I think exploring that is a good thing, but I think to take a direct action seems to be, it would be a sticky. I don't know how to say this. I think it would be best to talk to, we have an attorney and find out what the best response would be.
Yeah.
And are we making, so it's good to hear, I very much appreciate your feedback, but I think it's good to hear from our attorney who handles this type of thing.
I think so too, especially since we kind of got our fingers slapped at the last meeting for not running stuff through her. I think it,
Probably an easier question though. I mean, we've got, can you set a policy if you're doing a bid? Yes. And well, and the example would be too, in this particular project that we're doing, they're going to have, the general contractor isn't going to be doing the whole project. They're going to have who knows how many different subs. I mean, what
what can you, you know, when you're referring, do I hire anybody, does anybody hire anybody? In this case, you can hire any contractor that you want, unless you put a restriction on that contractor also doing something with their subs. I don't know what, you know, how you could achieve the goal that you want. But I mean, there's right now nothing you know of that you can put in any of your bid documents that would allow anything?
Well, one difference could be, these are projects that are quite large. It's less than $25,000 you can solicit quotes for your work, but you have to decide you're talking about. You can basically select who you want to receive those quotes. So you get to those different ranges.
But I guess I'm more saying, if we're saying, okay, we set a policy for $25,000, and four people that we know of fall into that category, they're not going to be our contractor because of whatever policy we set. How do you prevent those same people not working for a contractor you hire that we just approved tonight?
Well, yeah, so now lower contract as well, you don't have to take the lowest bid necessarily either.
I'm not talking about, I'm saying they're subcontractors.
Yeah, subcontractors can be trickier, I understand that. And, I haven't run the situation, come close to the situation of, I don't say blacklisting a contractor, but that's essentially would be, and the conversations with the attorney at that time where it's very difficult if the bidder is considered responsible, to not allow the bid, work. Either as a subcontractor or as a contractor. It definitely gets into the legal end of things, but the engineer side of things, as far as figuring out how the thing is just maybe a lot helpful, but, the statute for your bidding projects is allowing you to select a contractor that may not be the lowest bidder. You may have to require them to provide a list of subcontractors with their bids, so you can see who they are going to be on board as well.
I'm sure there's a method, we just don't know it. And the reason I say that is because there's plenty, you know, whether it be, you know, your state jobs on, well, come on, engineer type,
Well, are you thinking of like minority quotient?
yes.
Yes.
Yes, and just the living wage, what do they call it?
Oh,
Fair wage.
yeah.
Yeah, so there's certainly methods in place, just this particular group doesn't know what they are.
Right, I
You
do
know.
think this requires further research.
Yeah, so, no, but, so I totally understand what Adam's saying, totally. But I just don't think as far as responding just to you right now tonight, Adam, this bunch just doesn't have that expertise on those mechanisms. But I guarantee there's mechanisms, because we know there are in other avenues. But.
I think,
Go
I
ahead.
mean, I'm willing to explore this topic further and address it next month, revisit it next month,
Okay,
so.
so have Lon, or did you
Yeah,
want to, or
Lon
just,
wants
or are we?
to-
No,
directing-
that's fine.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
let's talk to Allison and
okay,
I'll ask around too, so.
all right, sounds good. All right, sounds good. Thank you, Adam, appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
All right, anyone else for the council? All right, police chief.
Mayor, city councilman. From August, this report is from August the 11th to September 13th. Police department handled 113 calls for service. We had arrests for burglary, property damages for downtown businesses. We all know that one of our business was burglarized and two of them property damage. Those were solved.
You know, I read in the paper that you made one arrest, but the individual wouldn't identify the other person in that.
He's been identified, I can't really comment on.
Okay,
the
nope, no
investigation,
problem.
but He was
Okay.
identified.
Okay.
And possession of alcohol on minor. We're currently investigating several other complaints. 6 traffic citations were issued for speed violations and exhibition driving. And the breakdown for calls for service: 1 assault, 1 harassment, stopping on speed violation, 2 burglaries, one of which we're investigating right now, 4 thefts. 1 was narcotically related arrests, 2 child protection, adult protection, 3 property damage complaints, 2 noise complaints, 2 suspicious activity. We made 16 traffic stops, and 2 of them were driving complaint followed by direct traffic enforcement. 12 assists other agencies, 5 alarms, open doors. Community policing directed patrol accounted for 43, and public assist and welfare checks 7. The rest of them were miscellaneous. Sibley County Dispatch was holding or called us in 4 times during this period of time, which amounts to, again, $600 savings to the city. All concerns regarding unofficial audience has been addressed. We maintain constant presence on Main Street during those hours, enforce parking, and educated people on social distancing and masks, and help with the pedestrian crossing the street also. Personnel is all the same. I'm going to be sending our firearm instructor, Officer Loa, to attend shotgun instructor course. Then we're not going to depend on any other agencies to qualify us with any types of firearms. Equipment and police supplies, main unit has 17,367 miles. Next oil change is going to be almost 19,000, and backup unit has 79,879 miles, and oil change is going to be almost 83,000 miles. We're going to be my work flip phone finally kind of on the last leg. It's doing something that it's not supposed to do, but I called the company, and it's virtually going to cost us nothing to replace it with a regular smartphone. I think they quoted $30 to replace it, and just give us, be asking what's the cheapest phone you can get us. Because that one just died on me. It wouldn't, then it kind of came alive again and was doing some kind of strange things. So I think it's, yeah, dying. I don't know how long it's been in service, this flip phone that we have. So. We're getting quotes on downtown surveillance cameras, and the community kind of stepped up and gonna donate some money towards those surveillance cameras. So far, we've got a couple of quotes, but I'm probably gonna get 5 or 6 quotes at least, and see. There's some, technical aspects to it. What kind of cameras we want to get? High-resolution cameras. We don't want to get cameras that you can't make out, people's faces in. So, and we'll see, depending on how much money we have available and how much it's going to cost. We'll see in the quality of different cameras. And I'll submit something to the city council. We spent $362 during this last month for software upgrades. I had during this time meeting with the sheriff, chief deputy, and all the police chiefs. Just recently, a couple of days ago, I adopted new use of force policy in compliance with new Minnesota laws and post board requirements. And department completed transition to NIBRS. It's a new FBI mandated crime reporting system. And I think this is it, and I'll be glad to take any questions.
I don't have any questions for the chief. Anybody else?
So I just want to say I appreciate the work that was done on the two ordinances that were presented to us a couple months ago.
Mm-hmm.
But we kind of got our fingers slapped at the last meeting by the city attorney claiming she didn't have any knowledge of them.
I am surprised because I actually went and spoke with her, and she went through those ordinances with me and recommended some things to change. So I did have a conversation with her. Maybe she doesn't recall it, but
Sure.
I definitely went and discussed it.
No,
Before
no.
I even drafted it, I just kind of presented a copy of it, and there was a discussion as far as a lengthy discussion about felons, you know, and as far as are they protected class, are they not protected class, and her opinion was they're not protected. That's why, you know, I took it in consideration. But we did
Sure.
discuss that ordinance with her.
Okay.
I don't know whether, you know, that's.
Yeah, I don't know where the
in
communication
great length,
breakdown
yeah,
was.
why
But
she maybe, I don't know. You have to ask her. But I did go and discuss it. You know, we spent
Yeah.
probably about an hour discussing it.
okay, great.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, chief. All right, civil engineer, Chris. Come on up.
This relates to construction services for joint claims and area projects.
Yep.
And follow on talking.
Question for you. So you guys did the bid letting on September 11th. Did having an extra day or two help?
Thank you.
Or did it not really make a difference?
The bids that came in were very good. So I don't know if maybe going longer than that would make a difference. In my experience, the contractors open it up about a week before it's due. And then I start getting phone calls, and that's pretty much the same story that happened on this one. Maybe 10 days before bid opening is when I got the first phone call. We did have 20 different general contractors that were holding plans on this project, which is exceptionally high. So that was very good to see. And then 7 bidders on the project as well. So, you know, historically, if we get 3 or 4, we're usually pretty happy, but we've been seeing a lot of projects getting 1 or 2 bidders. So seeing 7 shows there's a lot of contractor interest in the project. And so it seemed like the schedule worked for them. And I didn't get any pushback from anybody on them all the time for bidding. So it seemed like they were okay with what we had.
Okay.
So going into that project, we had an engineer's estimate of just under $2.48 million. The low bid was from GM Contracting at $1,956,335.95. Sure you get the tabulation for the rest of them, but Geislinger Sons was number 2. Ryan Contracting, Keekley Underground, Holtware Construction, Carl Larson and Northbell Construction were the other bids. All but 2 of the bids were underneath the engineer's estimate. So it shows there was a pretty good amount of interest in the project. So with the bids received, we are recommending approval to awarding the contract to GM Contracting Incorporated out of Lake Crystal, Minnesota, in the amount of $1,956,335.95. 2 years ago at Lakefield, and I worked them 10 years ago, maybe a little longer for me, but they've been doing a lot of work successfully in this area. And I think they did the projects on Henderson on trunk highways, as I recall too. So they know that they know kind of what they're getting into more than maybe some of the contractors as far as soils go and all the other stuff. So if that
All right,
questions for me on the bid, or
I don't have any. Anyone else?
No, the tabulation was really thorough, and as I thought it was really impressive that we got as much interest as we did, so
Yeah.
that's good.
and we did everything electronically too. So we were able to contractors were able to upload their bids electronically, or open them electronically. Did a go-to meeting to open the bids, worked out pretty well, and I think that was pretty favorable to the contractors too, because it simplifies the process for them. And they seem to be pretty happy seeing that method of delivery as well.
All right, so what do you need from us?
So what I would need from you is to award the project to GM Contracting, or accept the bids and award the project to GM Contracting in the amount of $1,956,335.95.
I'll make that a motion.
Go ahead. I'll second.
Yeah, that sounds good. I was just thinking about the actual process, like you're running the project, but we're actually awarding it to them, having never met them. And I was thinking, why wouldn't we just award it to you and you can deal with them? Because that's how it's gonna happen when they mess up.
And there's multiple deliveries of project. This is a design
Right?
and build. But yes, we'll be trying to take the heat if you get phone calls. Certainly direct them to us. That is part of our responsibility, and that's what's in our proposal here as well, as doing construction administration. The contractor doesn't work for us. Their contractor will leave with the city. We can't tell them what to do. We just have to make sure they build it according to contracts. I mean, I can't tell them be here tomorrow, but I have to ensure that they know they need to be here to get the work done, and we have to ensure that they're following contracts. So, but yeah, we will expect to be the person that is taking phone calls from residents, from contractors, from subcontractors, and ensuring basically everything is built according to the contract that they bid on.
Okay. All right, any other discussion? All right, got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. All right.
I also have with me today is, and that's what is handed out, is essentially our construction services contract. So today what we've had is we've had two contracts, and one is preliminary design that follows the final design. And together those amounts to, let's see, a little quick math I had here, about $113,300, $114,300. What we have following that will be our construction services proposal. So what we have proposed is to provide full-time construction observation with one RPR, we call them resident project representative. So it's the person who's going to be watching the contractor, ensuring they're doing their work according to contract, keeping track of quantities, doing pay applications, communicating to the residents. We're going to be doing a weekly newsletter for everybody that's on the project, and we can provide that through email and through mail as well. So those are the kind of things that our RPR will be doing. On top of that, there's also construction administration, which is more my role, which is going to be kind of supervising our RPR and ensuring that the contract is also followed. We also have in there construction staking, which is a surveyor going out there. Everything that's on paper right now needs to be staked out there so the contractor can build it. So we have full-time observation for the amount of about 30 weeks. So about 8 weeks of that will be this year, and the following 22 be in 2021. I do not expect to need 30 weeks of full-time observation. Once the sanitary sewer is in the ground, the work next year is mostly putting the road back together. And it really should not take that long to do 9 blocks, but understanding that one big rainfall in town could slow them down pretty dramatically, could limit their access from the east, especially if they're bringing in trucks, and it just kind of allows for us to kind of cover our basis on that. So what we have is a proposal for an hourly not to exceed fee of $249,600. I mentioned that's mostly our administration, observation, staking, and then record drawings to provide at the end of projects. So it's all basically everything that's built is updated in the construction drawings. So you have a final picture of what was built to follow in the years to come. The schedule I kind of mentioned there, but it's probably about 7 to 8 weeks worth of work this year, and the rest of it all in 2021. And that completion is actually end of August 2021, with the exception of final wear course paving, which would be sometime in September. Basically, let the ground settle a little bit in case anything pops up, then they have time to put that last lift of blacktop on there as well. We do still have a little bit of room in our budget for the original design budget to do a virtual neighborhood meeting. I think we wanted the contractor to be part of that, and so it's a contract requirement that they have a representative at that meeting. I think we identified about the first week of October to do that, so that now the contractor has time to figure out what they're doing, because once they get the contract, then they really figure out their schedule, and so it gives them about 2 weeks to kind of really figure out what's going on. And that'll be open to the public. That'll be virtual. We'll likely follow up with the second meeting in the spring, which should hopefully be in person, which is when we're getting ready to do the roads at that point.
You'll get us our informative poster also for our
Yeah,
kiosk.
the poster, now we have the date identified, we can finalize that and get something up on the board. Otherwise, social media posts from the city, and then Friday's doing something in the paper. Be a good, just public notice.
How much of an impact do you think accessibility will be during?
Yeah, so there's always, I can guarantee there'll be moments that they're digging sanitary sewer 12 feet deep in the middle of the road, and especially if you're over on 3rd Street South. There's some limitations. There's only one way to get there. We do have a requirement for the contractor to try to keep the alleys open. There's a couple alleyway entrances, get people as close as possible, but when they're digging 12 feet deep in a 30-foot wide street, there's really not going to be anything to work with to go around. So during those operations, they'll put the pipe in the ground, they'll put the soil back down. It should be passable, but it's always going to be tricky. I guess I'll say that much. So in most cases, there will be a few days where people might park half a block away, up to a block away, unless they get to the alleyways and get a little bit closer to home. We do have point next year when they're doing concrete curb. Once the curb goes in, it takes 7 days to cure. And they'll have a process where they put the curb and gutter in place, and they gotta wait 7 days before they get the driveway. And they'll be putting the driveway apron, they gotta wait 7 days before they drive on the driveway apron. And so there's, they might be able to park on the street in front of their home, but you know, they may have some points where they can't get in the driveway at least.
So I'm kind of looking more at public safety access, fire EMS, getting down into South 3rd Street on what I would say the south side of the levee, or the 200 block of South 3rd Street. It's an issue now already, so.
I think what we talked about would be, like you mentioned, we haven't used that alley where we've got the ponding area on the east side of there. We'll actually have to try to get that open to where, like, if you were gonna come down Minnesota Street, you'd keep going past 3rd. If they were putting the sewer in on 3rd Street, we'd somehow have to get a good access behind there where McConnell's got their vehicles and whatever now. I mean, that is still an open alley, so we may have to throw some material and whatever in there to make it drivable, so that then kind of matches up with the levee. And the same thing, you know, now we've only got one-way traffic on the south side of Minnesota, or the south side of Mill Creek, between 3rd and 4th. I mean, somehow, well, that's a narrow alley as well, which would be to the west of those houses. So somehow we'll have to figure out a decent plan to where making sure that the people that live on South 3rd Street are the ones that get access to the alley somehow, and it may affect what happens on South Fourth Street. I don't think we wanna have both South Fourth Street and South Third Street totally ripped up at the same time. I mean,
Yeah, so what we're gonna have going on in that situation is they're gonna be digging sanitary sewer from north to south. We have the pipe bursting underneath the creek portion of the levee system, which will be all just a trenchless improvement, so they'll dig pits for services. But where it comes up, the manholes will just start their work south of the levee, and they'll kind of work south, then west, and then south again, and then they'll do the last section of Fourth Street north, which is a small segment of sanitary sewer afterwards. So they'll get the main line in place as soon as possible, because they have to bypass pumping. They want to get that in the pipe in the ground quickly. And then as the street gets put back together, I think we'll probably try to work with them to keep openings where possible, like keep an opening at the alleyways, put the curb in last, or use a high early concrete, things like that allow them to drive on it earlier. But yeah, 3rd Street and 4th Street, I think we'd at least have 4th Street north or south of the intersection of Minnesota open. So that'd be the furthest someone would have to go. And in the case of emergency services, it's something that comes up on every project, and usually with pretty much every project that's happened, fortunately never needed it to happen, but usually the ambulance driver is going to drive in someone's front yard. If he needs to get somewhere, he's going to drive around the miles of dirt, drive in the front yard, drive in the backyards, drive in the levee. He's going to do what it takes to get where he needs to go. And the contractor, as necessary, will be there to assist them to get through if they need to push a dozer through or get things out of the way. Obviously, in that kind of situation, minutes matter, so you don't want to be reacting like that. But pretty much every time it's come up is that those drivers have told me they'll just drive in the front yards and need to get somewhere. So hopefully it's not needed, but the worst case scenario is we're digging 15 feet deep from someone's house, and we have a small corridor to push dirt and all that kind of stuff. It will be difficult to get places, but if someone needs to get somewhere, they'll be away, I guess. This might be not the main route.
We did talk extensively about the parking issue and access, and
Right.
it's challenging.
I'm just looking at 3 o'clock in the morning when the contractor is not there and we can't get access to South Third Street.
Yeah, hopefully, we talked about moving in phases, that should move pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, the sewer will be in the ground this year, and that's going to be the most disruptive work completely. When they're doing work next year, there's a little bit of storm sewer, a little bit of pipe in the ground, not much. When they dig the streets out, they're going to take about 2 feet of material up. And then they have to grade through that cut, the subcut, to try to dry the material out to the point where it's hard enough to pack and start putting the paint back in, put the ground back in. There's some times where they will have that 2-foot subcut in front of their house while we're grinding material. Hopefully it's a matter of days. Again, that material will be gone, so there shouldn't be a big pile of material that's right next to the roadway, where if emergency services need to get through, they're either going to go through the alleyway next to them, or they're going to go through the front yard.
Taking the 6-wheeler.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, it's encountered on every project, and most contractors are cognizant of that issue and try to work with that.
you did say there's gonna be, at least in sewer installation part of it, you're gonna have somebody here full-time.
Yeah, the budget we have here, and you might be looking at that and say $250,000 is a lot of money. And the reason for that is I budgeted somebody to be there full-time for 30 weeks. And that sanitary sewer is gonna be the first 7 or 8 weeks of that. So I still have somebody out there for 50 hours next
But I
week.
mean, as it relates to Randy's question, that the contractor's working until 7 o'clock or whatever, there's a known issue out there, they can make sure they contact the fire department and let them know that you're gonna have to pay attention to this for this particular, this is how we had to leave it overnight. I mean, that you're gonna have somebody there, it's not gonna have to be, somebody's gonna have to run around and see if, I mean, you're gonna have somebody on site, and they'll be the last person to leave, so that if something is not buttoned up, we'll be able to find it.
Yeah, so we have in here are essentially the working hours of the contractor are 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday. Work on Saturdays only allowed and approved. So, it should, in most cases, they're not gonna work Saturdays, so it generally should be 5 days a week. And while the contractor's working, we plan to have somebody here. You know, again, to some points where maybe the work they're doing is very, you know, they're drying a road out and doing something really minor, and we can certainly request, do you want us to be here? We can ask that question.
No, I mean, I guess when you're into some kind of crucial construction and there's not an access to a spot, you're gonna have somebody here and the contractor's gonna work until 7 o'clock. You're gonna have someone here until 7 o'clock as well, and you're gonna know the conditions.
Yep.
And you're not gonna, if there are some potential hazardous conditions out there, you're gonna have somebody on staff that's gonna be able to relay that to city personnel to let them know.
Especially when pipes going in the ground, we'll definitely have somebody here at all times. It's just most destructive work. But yeah, most of the case, unless you want us to reduce our time out there, we should have somebody out here, the contractor's out here. So, yeah, we will have somebody going through those, especially the most destructive stuff, like the stuff you can't see afterwards, that gets buried. We'll definitely have somebody out there during those periods of time.
I mean, at the same, if there's anybody, city volunteers, city staff or whatever, that's looking for some advice or some kind of direction or provide information to or get information from, there should be somebody here from SEH that on site that you should be able to get that information.
Yeah, that should be fine, yes, yeah. And the person we've identified for this fall is a guy that's very experienced, and at least we're getting all the pipe in the ground. We've identified the person for that so far. He probably wouldn't be the person here next spring, so when the roads are being built, we bring in more of a road-oriented construction person.
That's fine. I've just kind of heard we should have somebody there too. We will have somebody there too. Yeah, we should have somebody there. So I want to make sure that there is somebody there.
And that's what I'm hearing is that there's going to be somebody there.
Yep, that's what we've budgeted for. And the only reason I say any other options is if you, obviously if we're out here, we are charging by the hour to be here. And if you're okay with that, we budgeted for it in this.
No, point. If the contractor's working at 7 o'clock, you're here at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, usually there's someone here by 6:30 before they're firing machines up actually. So we'll be up here. That's the goal. And then it'll actually be shorter hours this fall, winter.
But then the contractor's not working anymore. The contractor is gone home. I don't think anybody's expecting that SEH has got staff out here. But if the contractor is working, I think the expectation is, at least this fall when they're doing underground work, is that there's going to be somebody from SEH here.
Absolutely, yes. I definitely agree with that, yes.
Excellent. Anything else? Do you need a motion on this too then?
Will that be for approval of our contract?
Okay, all right.
This is what the main one you're approving $250,000.
Yeah. All right, anyone want to make a motion on that?
I'll make a motion
All right,
to accept the contract.
okay,
I'll second.
all right, got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Okay, motion and second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, thank you.
And did you receive the proposal from AET on?
Right.
Okay.
And I think we've got that in the finance proposal.
Okay, I never got anything from Ron, Intertech, so that'd be the only proposal that you'll have.
Okay.
So I would recommend approval of that. If you have questions for me, certainly, but that's all.
So yeah, what's not in here is the testing stuff. Also, what's not in here that you're gonna see in the finance plan is this, how many services are there?
There's 4 on the porch.
No, all together.
All together, I have the number here. If you bear with me for a second here.
20-some,
It's a little bit more than that, actually.
30-some?
30-some is more closer. So we've got 30, 44, 49 total.
50. Okay, so that we got $200,000 in the finance budget to do. We're hoping that it's not going to be all 50 services that we have to dig up and replace. We're hoping we get by with some TV, some or some slip lining or some grouting, or some are going to be good enough to do whatever. But that all is coming. That's coming after the services go in. That will be a separate negotiation.
Yeah, we have a two-way clean out being installed at each service, so they can stick a camera in either direction, they can line in either direction, they can do whatever they want to, so yeah, that'll be a further cost afterwards to go up to the house.
We gonna bid that out, or is that gonna be direct negotiate? Can we decide that yet?
If it's over, under $175,000, you can just get quotes. I'm guessing we're talking about 200,000, so we'll have to actually prepare bidding documents to do that work. Now, each one is different. Still has the trickier part. Each house will have a different need, but that'll have to be a different bidding package. And the engineer involvement can be as much or as little as you want on that too, because it's basically going to be a plumber determining how to get from one point to the other.
Are we gonna do that, piggybacking right on this project, or are we gonna wait until 2021, or?
That's up to you. If you have the financing lined up, there's nothing holding you back from doing it now. Might be that if it gets to be too late, the contractor's seen the site conditions.
Well, then who would do that? You?
We can, yeah, we can do that. We've also, in another community, we had to set up where the public works director works with the contractors specifically, and they had 3 pre-approved contractors, but in that case, the city was assessing that work, and they said 3 pre-approved contractors for residents to use to do the work. So yeah, it's something that we can talk about afterwards. Might be a little, figure out how you want to handle that.
But afterwards, and as in what sense? If we're gonna start the project before the next city council meeting,
Yeah.
I mean, afterwards, and if the potential is that you might want to look at something this fall. Are we talking afterwards?
I would probably say
next week, or?
I'd say this fall. The contractor's not going to start work until next spring either way.
Okay.
So having the bidding documents done that early might be a little bit too early. And so if you wanted to kind of plan for that to be maybe even fall work after these guys are out of there.
Fall of 2021.
Yes. And again, trying to capture on that slow pipe work season that we kind of run into. That might be something to consider. There's a handful of these we see might be easy. We could even try to do negotiation with GM Contracting, see if they want to do them as well. So that's always an option.
What kind of a percent contingency does somebody usually hold on one of these projects?
So when we do our estimates, we do 10% contingency. Now we have construction there, that should hopefully be fairly close to actual cost.
Okay.
We don't give contingency. Our quantities usually have a little bit extra with blacktop and gravel. Sometimes you go slightly over, but it's hopefully going to be very close to what our estimate is in there. As far as our services, I'm hoping I'm on the top end as far as hours per week, and then they'll come down as the summer goes, depending on. You might get a contractor says I'm going to bring in 2 crews, I'm going to knock it out in half the time. Certainly do that, and that'd be to the city's advantage if they did do that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you, appreciate it. All right, next is gonna be Todd Hagan from Ehlers. We're gonna all turn off our mics. We'll have Lon turn his off and then turn it back on when he needs to talk because the feedback issue. So Jeff will set virtual Todd up and turn him around, and he'll go ahead and present. I want to see Todd.
Yeah, you gotta see me.
You know how much we're paying Todd? I want to see him.
Not as much as Chris.
All right, thank you.
Great. You guys hear me? See me? Okay.
Yep.
Great. So Lon and I have been working through the numbers here. We got the engineers, final bid price and added engineering to it for the sewer project to get to 2.342218 for the sewer project. And then Lon also worked in some water projects as well. So we've got $400,000 in there for water project. I'm gonna say water tower, but I'm not sure what the water project is. And then $200,000 for some of the services related to that. So we've got a bond issue here of that's gonna supply all that money. So we're up to $2,945,000 for the project costs. And then so we put cost of issuance for the bonds, and then an estimate of the underwriter's fee. They can use some of it, all of it, or none of it. They may give us a premium on the day of sale. We'll do all that adjustment when we come back on either November 9th, 10th, or 12th. How's that for specific council dates? So you guys can pick any of those. If those don't work for you for the bids that I'll present on those days, then staff in my resolution has authorization to pick another date if that doesn't work out for you. So we've got a bond issue of $3,030,000. It's general obligation, water and sewer revenue bonds. So for my part, I'm kind of like the engineer, kind of like Chris. What I do as municipal advisor, what Ellers does is package this up, in the pre-sale report, kind of like a preliminary report. It's got the terms in it, kind of what we're going to do, estimated interest rates, all that good stuff. And we will go out for bid also on this too. So we'll competitively bid the bond issue. I just want to say, I've got a couple graphs on the back of that report. The rates are at historic low interest rates right now. We are going to kind of skip over the election. So I'm not sure. I know we're not going to sell the week of the election, which is, I think, a good thing. It's going to be, the week or so after that. So, the market will probably be kind of stuck on November 3rd, just trying to figure things out. If they react to any surprises there, then we should stabilize by the next week or so when these bonds go out for bids. So it is what we call a double barrel security on this. So we've got general obligation backing, your full faith and credit, of the city behind it for the bondholders. So that will give us the lowest interest rates possible on a bond issue. And it also has sewer water revenues pledged to it. Lon has crafted sort of the revenue constraints on this. So we did back into the term of the bond issue. So we've got a 12-year term, and that's based off of the revenues, you're not paying on the state bond. I think that was with LeSueur back then. So we've got some existing revenues that we can use, somewhere around 370 to 390,000 a year. So we're only going to be using 280 to 300,000 a year, and we sort of started the amortization schedule off after at least the 2019 bonds mature. After 2023, so 2024, we're started kicking this one in. So it's interest only to that point, which is 2 years of interest only, and then 10 years of principal and interest. So we're then the remaining amount would give you some cushion. Remaining revenues would give you some cushion to build up capital outlay or fund other balances. And so that's kind of the conservative approach right here. It's a pretty short bond issue, large bond issue. We are going to get this guaranteed. It will understand that it's sewer and water related, even if you're cutting into some streets. It's kind of an incident to get into the utilities. And as long as we can, say that, we can get this bond issue guaranteed by the state of Minnesota, and they're still a AAA. They've got a negative outlook because of everything that's kind of going out the door, but they're still a AAA, and we won't. The idea is not to get an underlying rating, we call it, from the city of Henderson itself, because we're still, working on building up our reserves and financial planning and all that kind of stuff. So this will sell with a guarantee behind it from the state of Minnesota at the AAA Standard & Poor's level. So I've got it estimated at about 1.19% average interest rate. And I actually have 20 basis points or 0.2% of cushion in there too. So, you know, we're hoping things stabilize. I mean, we hear from the market that rates are going to stay really low for a few years, but you know, you never know. So, you know, competitively bidding this will, you know, we don't have a crystal ball, but we know what we know now, and we hope for the best in November when the bids come in on the bond issue. So there are 2 resolutions in front of council. You know, one is to authorize Ellers to proceed, you know, with the process of packaging this up and bidding it out for you folks and coming back with the bids in November. And the other one is to authorize you to execute a state credit enhancement agreement, which is with the Minnesota Public Facilities Authority. So they administer this program for the state of Minnesota, and it's just a $500 application fee, and you get it blessed by them. And then Standard & Poor's has kind of a canned approach, so to speak, of just giving us a rating. So it's kind of just, we buy a rating from them and through this program, and we're hoping for the best. So that's what we do, and everything looks pretty good here. I mean, like I say, it looks like it's a pretty nice bond issue as far as short and pretty large block sizes. So for the city of Henderson, very surprising, but you know, you've got the revenues, I hear, from lawn that will support this bond issue. So, you know, why not shorten it up as close as we can with a little bit extra, right? To put into the enterprise fund to increase our balances for capital needs later. And I think, you know, the idea is too, even after 2035, which is actually around the, you know, right around the corner, you know, you guys should be pretty free and clear of a lot of your debt out there and, you know, ready to start over again. So, because it's perpetual, right? So I'm here for any questions you folks have. It's kind of what we're looking at for the terms of the bond issue.
All right, thank you, Todd.
Yep.
Does anyone have any questions specifically for Todd at all? Okay. All right, are we just ready to go into the motions then for the resolutions?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2020-6.
All right, got a motion for 2020-6. Can I get a second? Got a motion second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, next one. All right, got a motion. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, Todd, we've gone ahead and passed both of those. Is there anything you need from us beyond that?
No, we'll send you, thank you very much. We'll send you, you know, paperwork after the fact to Lon then, and if we need you guys to sign any agreements, you know, we'll email those to you with some instructions. The idea too is to close this up on or about December 3rd. You know, you'll get all the money at once, and so you can invest it locally if you want, or, you know, we have an investment arm over here that, you know, we think we can, you know, beat most interest rates in the area. And we also work with local banks too, if they don't want to take it all, because you have to collateralize it, you know, and so we, you know, we could make some money for you, and so can the local banks for you in the interim, you know, before you spend it. So it's wise to try to invest it as high as you can. You know, you've got temporary periods under federal law that allows you to do some investment of tax exempt proceeds, you know, taxable investments for a while too. So, you know, you can kind of get an edge on it that way too. If, you know, if you're not spending a lot over the winter, then we can help you invest it as well. So, but thank you very much for the business. We appreciate it as usual.
All right, sounds good. Hey, thank you, Todd.
You bet. Take care.
Yep. All right, if you could all turn your mics back on, and we'll continue through the rest of the meeting here.
Maybe just while we're on that, let's follow up on some of the financial stuff.
Okay.
If you go back, there's some handwritten things in their proposal that I put on the bottom of their proposal that Todd was alluding to, but we didn't get into too much detail. The 29, where does the 3030 come from? The 2945000 is made up of, and you're gonna have to, the $400,000 is basically from last year, where we ran into what got perceived as a shortfall. It wasn't, it was a short-term finance through the local bank until we did a long-term finance. So that was the water project that we started last year, did some this year, and still plan on doing more in the future with the water tower. And in addition, then there's $200,000 that we're setting aside for the services that I don't know if you want to talk about that later yet tonight, or we want to wait for a while, or how we're going to do that, but there is apparently then 50 services or so that are going to have to get, we're going to have to do individual negotiations on whether we want to do them with SEH or we want to directly negotiate with GM, however that wants to work. But that puts you at 1.9 million. That 445,000, you would ask, why doesn't that tie to what Chris had for his number? Well, that number is specifically this project. If you recall this, how we started with this, we had to do preliminary studies for storm sewer and also to even get this far. So those are SEH's first engineering fees for that. Also, there were some storm sewer things that we've got billed for through SEH, as well as $29,000 for the Highway 93 levy portion of the project. So that ties to this $445,000. So basically, we're doing all of our financing for the projects from the last 2 years to what we're perceiving as going to be, at least the way Chris is talking, sometime in the fall of 2021, the end of this project. So that's why Todd is, there will be some money out there for investing. Also, that bond, we're not going to change the terms of the First State Bank bond. The principal was due on that 2021, 22, and 23. That's why we're starting the principal up on this for 24. We're using this $400,000 to basically pay that principal and then tie out our internal funds for our bonds and for our projects and through the general accounting system. One other sheet then that's with the bond package, as you turn past the resolutions, and you've seen this one last week, only shortened up a little bit. What our goal, as I and Todd got working through this, while we're talking about a potential sewer project on our own for Henderson, and where Todd is coming with this $370,000 to $390,000. If you look under the 2020 issue, those are the references I'm making where that $400,000 ties out that we already have pre-borrowed from First State Bank at a higher interest rate that we're going to pay back with this particular issue. And that's where the last time those numbers were negative for 21, 22, and 23, because we hadn't done this bond issue yet. Now that actually shows there's even going to be bond funds available in our sinking fund in those particular years. But when Todd referred to the 2033, 34, 35, when we did our dissolution agreement with the city of LeSueur, we are in contract with them for 20 years. So we can get out of it at any time. We just have to pay back a certain portion. So we can get out of it today if we wanted to. There would be cash here actually to go ahead and do that. But if you don't, if you get down, and now with this issue, you think that, boy, this is a big issue, $3 million. But based on how this is getting paid back, based on doing an aggressive 12-year payback schedule, by 2034, 35, assuming that there's no special assessment debt borrowed or no utility debt borrowed, right now, that would mean there is no debt that the city of Henderson would have, at that time. You'll see the levy proposal here later, and you're going to see, and we talked about it the last time, you're going to see in 2025, 6, 7, 8, that those numbers are real low, but that doesn't take into account that what we're paying for now in a lot, in most of our bond things, are equipment that's gonna run its life out by 24 and 25, so you're gonna have to re-up and you're gonna have to rebond again. But so, while I had those forms here, I thought I would point that out, and we talked about this at finance now a couple times the last couple months. We talked about it again today, and I don't know if you two guys got anything you want to throw out there or not, or anybody else.
No. Okay, and then done. All right, sounds good. All right, city attorney is not here. Right back to you.
Okay, this will come out of the existing, the packet that went out on Friday, for what you originally would have got. We still are waiting for, there's gonna be a fall inspection for our levee. When that's gonna happen, I don't necessarily know, but he said sometime the end of September. Street signs, they worked on more of them today. The ones that actually have poles for them are done. The only ones right now that aren't are some of them up in, basically from South Street to the south into Oakview Heights and up in Maple Ridge and West Ridge. So for the most part, the signs are up now. It's just a matter of having Steve Freeze has volunteered to help to do the rest of them. So when it gets to that point, we'll end up getting going on that. Blacktop things, we're done with pretty much everything except a couple patches, one down by Ridge Road and then the one for when the water line had to get repaired. Compost, Bruce is getting some prices right now from various places to do some things with the compost site. He's got meetings set up with Al now that Bruce is back. So hopefully he pushed everything back today, and there are actually apparently people that'll take some of that stuff. So in the next couple of weeks, we hope to have that information put together so that we can provide some bids by the next meeting. Snow removal, haven't discussed anything with anybody. Allison's Park, nothing really has changed up there. We're still getting campers, and we'll have them probably until the end of October. Community building, we haven't done a whole lot. We haven't done anything up here, but I guess while I'm talking about the grounds and whatever, there was park board last night, some of the things. So there were some grounds things here that were talked about. Wood chips showed up tonight. Those will get placed. Bruce will do some more grounds landscaping here with what's going on there. He's got Dewar coming in tomorrow, and whatever dead trees and bushes and branches and whatever that we got to get rid of. Hopefully he can start on that tomorrow. The boat landing, Bruce did the clearing for that today. The pump house project, we didn't get a check yet, but got an approval for the $12,073 from FEMA. That was the last one of those that needed physical approval. So Freeze will start on that sometime, he said, in October. The pond easements, like Steve said, that's getting work done up there. Equipment, that's now with tonight, that ended up all getting bonded and put together here. So now we'll look at how we're going to do SCADA system and our communication systems and all the things along there. The railing, wing nut still hasn't done anything there unless he did it the last couple of days. I haven't driven around and looked. Something else that got brought up last night was spraying for retaining walls and 6th Street walls, and Bruce is working on getting the materials and things for that, and starting on that here as soon as he can. Updating policies and ordinances, I guess you guys have talked about that a little bit already. Finance plan, Ellery or Todd just laid that out. ISG, like Steve just laid that out. Wood chips, like I said, are here. Street sweeping, as we went through the budget, looked at stuff. We haven't done any of this year yet. Bruce had them called in a couple times and they got rain, so he just postponed it. We do have them coming sometime later here in the next month or so. Like I said, Dewar here tomorrow. The timeline as far as when we had some things as far as tree plan that got talked about also last night, and there's the new DNR tree inspectors from Hutchinson. He's ready to go anytime to meet. Now it's just a matter of whenever Ron's available, when he's not golfing, to set up a time to meet with, he and Terry and Bruce. They'll try to get moving on that.
Excellent. Any questions, for Lon?
When Allison Park closes this year, can it just be barricaded off? All last winter, we plowed it. Nobody needs to go in there.
I agree.
There's no need to go into that park during the winter and plow it.
Who was plowing it?
Bruce was.
Bruce was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I asked him about, well, yeah, I asked him 3 or 4 times, and apparently, there was a reason for it, but,
There
Well,
was.
just bring it back if
Yeah.
there's a valid reason.
I didn't think it was valid reasons, but he had reasons for doing it.
What kind of barricade would you suggest? Do we have anything
Just
available?
a regular barracade. I mean, just put a
Well,
regular
as far as that
barricade
goes, if you
across.
just push a snowplow up
Right.
with
Yeah.
a barricade,
Oh, sure.
you're not gonna, you know.
Okay. All right.
We did do that in the past, and you just put a big snowplow there with something.
It'll work. Okay. Sounds good.
Thanks for noticing that, Randy.
What's that?
Thanks for noticing that.
All right. Any other questions for the city administrator? Okay. All right. City council park board.
Well, we met last night. It was an interesting meeting, simply because we were down in the park and there was a lot of noise and some people had hearing problems. But Robin gave an update on the 19 Hill here, kind of by the
Oh, yeah.
museum.
Yep.
And the MnDOT grant. Do you want to talk about that?
I think,
I think we did already,
yeah,
yeah.
and,
Yep.
and we got volunteer help. Was
Yep.
kind of what the park board pledged for us.
Cool.
'Cause
There was some concerns expressed about the trees that are dying down along the softball fields in the levee.
Mm-hmm.
And what are we gonna do with those?
Okay.
And that was kind of the pre-tree planning that Lon talked about already, having somebody come down and take a look at that.
Mm-hmm.
And that was about it.
Yeah, it was good.
Good. Awesome. Now, did you guys come up with like a future meeting schedule? Because I know the park board hadn't met in quite a while. Right?
So Jim and I actually talked with Lon about that today. You know, and I agree with Lon. You've got council people appointed to that, and that's part of our job. But then you're asking non-council people to come to this meeting where all these people are, and the whole social distancing and with the hearing issues that people are having, there's just some concern about that.
There was more, essentially more people at the park board than there was in this whole
Yeah.
room
But,
tonight.
yeah, I mean,
We were outdoors.
it was,
But
it's in the time I've had the meetings,
Right.
it's the most uncomfortable meeting I've ever been to. And, not because of the topics that were put together, but one, we're still in a state of emergency.
Yeah.
We've got 7, we had 10 people there. I thought there was gonna be 12 or 13, you know, which,
Wow.
of those 10, you could probably classify 7 of them in some type of at-risk category. The other 3 have got children in school of doing whatever.
Right.
And that's what
So maybe hold off for a while.
I mean, it's what we've
Okay.
done with, and I mentioned this with Jeff on the Joseph Brown group and with HHPC and whatever. I mean, the makeup of some of those groups is not such where I just don't feel comfortable that you should have people that feel they should now come to a meeting because they're appointed to that committee.
Right.
And which these people are all upstanding people that are gonna show up when you tell them to
Oh,
show
yeah.
up. But I think to follow up though, I think what most places are doing And I think, and Jim laid out, is more so communicating with all of our volunteers more through some kind of email system or priority system or question and answer kind of thing. And,
Right, I mean, what we should do, because once May comes, that's when you're gonna start doing all your work, but you have to have a plan for it going into it. So probably November, or like taking input from what do we want to see with our parks, what do we want to see with various projects around town, and then getting those prioritized by those volunteers through like a Google Forms thing or something like that.
Oh, that sounds great. Yeah, we don't need to
But we
belabor it.
need
That
input,
makes
what do
sense.
people want, but we don't need to all necessarily be together. So getting input from park board members, even doing a Zoom meeting, there might be some training that needs to happen with some folks, but that's what we're doing tonight. It's right there, and most people have a
Right.
log on, so maybe doing it that way. And again, I think early winter or late fall, early winter, and then before spring hits, get a list of priorities that should happen through this season when people.
No, I came up as park board, but I think it's something that if we want to continue to have those type of meetings with our committees, I guess that's fine. We should go ahead. But I don't think it's park board. I think it's every committee that we've got, and we don't have a policy. I mean, we don't have a city council meeting policy. We're just doing whatever we're doing. I mean, if
Do we have other committees meeting right now?
No.
Yeah, okay, I just want to make sure, I didn't think we did, so.
Just budget and finance.
Yeah, but we've got our own, the only committees, the only people we've got meeting, and that's the latitude that I've taken is people that are elected officials that are on a appointed committee.
Right.
I think that's part of their job, I'll say.
Yep.
And those committees are meeting, but none of the others. I mean, I haven't checked around, but I just don't see much on League of Cities stuff or any of their other places having large committee meetings with volunteers. I mean, it seems like you're opening yourself up to a lot of, but I'm not unwilling to do them, but I really think then.
Well, I don't hear anyone calling for them, so. Anyone? So.
Well, but there are people that want to have their voice heard. I mean,
Sure.
there are, so.
I think there's ways to do it. I think that should be explored and get some feedback from people on what we can be doing. But unless we can all be together and talk it through in a place like this in February, where you're not going to meet outside in February, Yeah. So I think there's a way to get that input.
Okay.
But I think that's, at least for the park board, and maybe that's the trick, and Jeff has kind of done it with HHPC. I mean, there's been a couple issues that have come up, that we've sent out via email, and, and that's how, because we got a question from Michael Coop from, how are you doing your meetings and whatever, and the response that I put out was, we're doing them through email and through various social contacts, and at least his email back to me was, well, that's good, at least you're trying to do whatever, but
All right. Okay. Oh, sounds good. All right, library? It is open.
It is open with limited hours that are listed on Facebook. I guess the Sibley County Library Board decided to open as a unit, or Sibley County Library System opened as a unit. It's still limiting to 10. Masks are strongly recommended unless, they're required, really. I guess the board says strongly recommended, but they're required unless you have a health issue, right? All staff are masked if there's anybody else in the building. The the school, MNCS, asked to use the basement of our library
Mhm.
for a couple of students with limited internet access. I've given them preliminary permission to do that, but since it's a city building, I think it'd be more appropriate if everybody, if you guys look at it too and consider that. It's 2 to 3 students with an adult supervisor. I think it's high school students. They're completely online. The high school is at MNCS, but there's a couple of students that are coming in because of their limited internet access. So since the library is housed in the Department of Education, which is considered an essential service. So for that reason, I thought it justified allowing that. They do not have access to the main part of the library unless they go around and go outside, so that they can be counted and so that they don't, go so close to the desk, so that social distancing is maintained. So, and they're masked, but what do you think of that?
So is MNCS requesting it, or
Yes.
you? I guess I don't quite understand. So these are students who have decided to be distance only, but
Yeah, we're 1 day a week. I think Robin's suggesting, and I'm.
Okay.
Yeah, you can clarify for me, because I
Yeah,
got
we're
notice
1
from
day
the
a
library
week in
board.
person, 4 days a week online. And, yeah, so 4 days a week online, and I think what she's saying is there's limited internet access, so they could use the Wi-Fi, and they'd have an adult supervisor. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, do you not know about this?
No.
Because we were contacted by, the library board, so the Henderson Library Board president contacted, the director, and then she sent it to me, and so I said, it's a city building, but if it's an essential service like education, then I'm fine with it, but we did also say that there's hotspots that you can take from the library. The library got a pretty significant grant, the library system, they now have 10 hotspots to lend out, so, I don't know.
So they're needing,
So,
they
the
basically
library,
don't have internet at their house.
that was my understanding, but the
Okay.
library has been open. It is a public building now, and it's following the social distancing guidelines, and that would continue to do that, but so the basement remains closed by direction of us, because it's a public facility, for public use. But so, we were asked if it could be opened for supervised, limited number of students that were having internet access issues, is what I was told. But if Jim, if you don't even know about that, then that's different.
That's a little, yeah. We might be wading into
So say that.
waters we don't want to.
Yeah, I'm just checking out something right now.
Okay, and do you want to say anything else about the library actually being open?
Oh, no, I think it's great the library's open, it's cool.
Okay,
That's all. But their computers are closed. Like, you can't go to the library and use the actual computer library or library computers, correct?
I think that you can.
Can
Up
you?
to-
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
for 30
'Cause-
minutes at a time.
Okay, because when I was in there, they were all still like, no mas. So, okay, that's cool.
Because it's limited time too, you're not supposed to be in there longer than 30 minutes.
Okay.
So, and then every other one should be shut down to allow for social distancing. And then the seats are turned over, it's a get in, get out kind of situation. There's no seating. It's not our usual welcoming library, but.
So this is in the basement, they're using their own computers, and they're just accessing our internet.
Yes. And it's only for the schools.
For all the schools?
No, well, I'd open it to all the schools I think because education it's an essential service, like the libraries from the state level have had permission to be open if they choose.
Because I know in Lee Sewer, there's families using the hotspot in the parking lot.
At the library.
No, at the school.
Oh, at the
because
school.
of their home internet service. So I think it would have to be like advertised or send a note to the school, or, if you're gonna allow a couple kids, you gotta, how are you gonna allow, well, Robin can come at 1 o'clock and Janet can come at 3 o'clock.
Yeah, it's school officials supervising that, but definitely like the hotspots are available to everybody with the library card, and And they give priority to people with students. So if, so-and-so comes in because they want to get on Facebook and they don't have any children in the house, if there's people with children in the house that are trying to use it for educational purposes, then that takes priority over other reasons. But.
So I guess in that sense, if, now Jim, you're in a funny spot here, so I apologize. So if MNCS has decided as a school to do distance learning for high schoolers Monday through Thursday, for whatever reason, but then they're allowing distance or in-person learning essentially to happen because of supervision, who's responsible for those kids? Does the MNCS even know that they're taking on this liability or potential liability? And then what liability does that open up to us by not allowing the public in general? But you know what I mean? So.
Except that the public in general can go during the open library hours to the main library and use the computer there for half an hour. I mean, it's a very challenging. And
I know that, if you're requiring something for school, if a school is requiring something, they have to provide it if the kids don't have it. So like, for example, schools are issuing hotspots for those situations. No? Is that wrong?
No, yes, we do have hotspots.
So yeah, and so a lot of schools are providing hotspots for this specific situation.
Yeah, let me follow up on this.
What about the schools up north, though, that are having mega issues and those kids aren't being able even to get the hotspots? I mean, so I don't think it's true that they have to supply it, because if they did, the schools up in northern Minnesota would have to supply it.
I think they're running into broadband and cellular issues in some
Right.
cases, though.
So they might be required to supply it, but not able. You know what I mean? I guess I feel like at some point, I mean, maybe it requires a case-by-case review. And I haven't heard anything else since the initial, but I did say that I wanted, that we requested that the library should collect names and know what times they're there and just kind of be, I guess, really
Who's
on top of the
cleaning it and
situation.
who's paying for the cleaning?
Who's paying for the cleaning?
Who's cleaning it in between each child?
Yeah, that's a
And
good
who's
question.
gonna pay for that? And
Theoretically,
either it's open or it's closed.
Theoretically, we would. Again, I'm speaking very softly here because I don't know. Obviously, I have my phone in my hand right now. Theoretically, if allowed, then we have sanitizer and we would clean it. So that would be that answer, if you trusted us to spray sanitizer.
I guess I would have to say either it's open or it's closed. Is the basement open or is it closed?
Right, and the basement's closed.
Well, then it's closed.
Because that from a policy standpoint at the city, that whatever we would apply there would apply to this room too.
Right.
And I guess considering, I think education is important, so,
It is important, but there's other options.
it sounds like there might be other options.
I will check into it. We have been able to use, so for instance, we've used the pre-COVID, we were able to, we used the library for MCA testing or for, when we could just go there, we were public, and, we were, the library had, since we were in education use, as an education use, we would do testing there. That's pre-COVID, so I'm working on this issue because I think there's a workaround to it.
Yeah, I think,
Do we want to revisit it here a little later in case you get some more information? Or
yes. And in the
okay.
preliminary, do you want to continue to allow me as library liaison to make case-by-case judgment call, or do you just want to say it's completely closed?
Yeah, I'm in favor of opening stuff up, but again, that's more higher policy that we just talked about. I think for this particular thing, I think we should just wait till see what Jim comes up with here in a little bit.
Okay, and just table it for now, or talk about it at a different meeting. We'll just table it for now in our meeting and just revisit it at the end and see what happens.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
sounds
I'm okay.
good.
Are you guys okay with that, or?
Yes.
I guess as long as you open up the offer to the other schools.
Yeah,
You know?
I mean, this is different because it's during the school day and they're actually bringing a school staff with. And I feel like if there's a situation where the school contacted us and said, we're going to bring a staff, we're going to assign a staff to 2 students and house them in your basement to use your internet. I was pretty comfortable with. I was comfortable with that after I reasoned it out, that we are housed in the MDE, and so it's an essential service. And so I thought, well, if that's what you need, then that's fine.
I understand that.
Thanks.
I understand it too, but I bet you there's more cases out there. Because I see them sitting in the parking lot, vans of kids, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this would be a nightmare.
Yeah.
And if that mom knew that the library was open, if they had a person to supervise, I think they might like that, especially in the winter.
I agree that it would, and then that kind of becomes different because then that is more public in my mind, and I'm not opposed to that.
When you say that a person to supervise, is a person to supervise different than an MNCS instructor, or are they the same thing?
Well,
is any adult a person to supervise?
Well, if they're paid by the school, why aren't they doing it at the school?
Because we can only have so many people in school at a time.
For social distancing reasons.
But again, is that if I'm homeschooling, which then doesn't that mean I'm qualified to do whatever? Am I not taking on the same role as a teacher at the school, or not? Or I'm way over.
No, you're spot on, because my kids who are distance learning, 3 days out of the week, I mean, they require that supervision. These are, 6th graders and 7th graders, and yeah. So.
I guess I'm going by the whole, thing that has been really pushed down to and said by the state that, communities should be open-minded and work with different groups during this pandemic.
But, so let's, taking what Jan was saying, so Lon, what if we said this building was open for that purpose? Would we be talking about it any differently? If this room was open for MNCS or whoever used, or just social
in your case, you're opening it up and entrusting the adult supervisor to take control. You're not monitoring.
No, but I am requesting that I know the hours are there and who it is. And then, well, or not the students, but the number of students in that. I don't know, we were sure that it was like 2 to 3. And now I haven't heard anything else since I've been asked if it was possible. So I'm assuming it hasn't actually happened, but I don't know.
But when they're there, is the door supposed to be locked or open?
The door going up to the library is locked.
What about getting in and out of the door? I mean, can anybody come in that back door when they're in there?
It can be locked no, it shouldn't be. I mean, they shouldn't be able to, but I did say to open windows to allow in circulation. And I didn't specify if that door should be locked, but that it should be limited to only the people that are expected to be there. And that there has to, of course, be the school provided supervisor.
So in compared to this case, we obviously, I think we figured out we can get 9 people, maybe 10 in here, social distancing. So you'd have to, somehow, if we're going to do that, you're going to have to figure out a way to get people in and out of here, signing them up, 3 or 4 a day. But the other issue with it, in which, Jim is looking at research, to Janet's question of who's cleaning, right now Lindsay's cleaning, the only time she cleans it is prior to this meeting, and we leave it until the next meeting. So, Jim is saying he's cleaning for his students, or or MCS, or Minnesota Country Schools. staff.
Jim's not saying it.
No, but they're he's saying that's supposed to be part of the
Yeah,
requirement.
yeah.
Which would mean, if you're gonna open this space, you'd have to do the same thing, that somehow you'd have to entrust the people that are supposed to be in charge, whoever, whatever criteria you set. So your question, would I care? I wouldn't care any more than I would care. If people are up in Allen's Park, we entrust that they're gonna do some things. It's just a matter of more people can go up there because it's an open space, so. But I don't know how, if we said people can come in here, and it could be 8 people, which would be 4 adults, maybe and 4 students, how we separate them, how we do it, whether we put them in corners, we'd have to put something together.
The irony in saying, like, you can't use the library basement safely is that, on Tuesday, when you drive by, all of the vendors, there's one wearing a mask, and they're serving food, and they're on city property. So, and the same with the park board meeting. There needs to be some sort of consistency in our message at some point. Like, so we support unmasked food vending, but we're not going to support education. I just don't think that.
Oh, I don't think
I
anyone's
think
saying they
that's
don't
who
support education.
I don't think that. I don't know. I think if you're going to crack down on one situation, there maybe needs to be a little more attention paid to other situations, and maybe that's. I'm not saying that that's how we feel, but I'm definitely saying it is would not be far from, I don't think it would be a far stretch to believe that it would look that way, that it looks like, that would be what we're presenting as a city.
I just think that if the library is gonna be open, is fine. And if a supervisor and the children want to use it, that's fine. But I don't think that Janet and her children should be the only people that are invited in. I think Randy and his children should be invited to use it, or, like saying the library is offering this service.
Yeah.
But if it's a private service, well, I'm not for that. I'm not that kind of person saying Janet can do this on Tuesday, but you can't.
Jim, what were you saying?
I don't think our staff member is aware that we had hotspots to give out to children to use for internet service, and they were doing this to make sure kids could get online, but they weren't aware that we had hotspots for some reason. So I am in the process of taking care of that. Bringing it back around, though, I think there has to be. I don't care where kids go to school. My concern during this pandemic is when kids couldn't get online. Especially younger ones. Trust me, I'm the guy who sits online sometimes and doesn't have a kid show up. Oh, my Wi-Fi wasn't working. Okay, because Wi-Fi is a basic need for many children these days.
Yes.
But I do think that there is some validity to it, but it's a complex issue.
Well, I think we could solve both, in my mind anyway, by keeping things closed. But I would say, so the problem I heard here was MNCS doesn't have enough room to have, well, we could just lease the basement to MNCS.
Right, that would be a different, we don't need the basement. There was a person that wasn't aware that we had hotspots.
So you don't need it now.
We
So
don't
now
need
it's
it.
a mute issue. We
Okay.
just spent
This was
40
all
minutes
news to
talking
me. I
about
think
this.
somebody had the good intent to try and, here's what it
Okay.
was. Somebody had the good intent of trying to get some kids internet access at home, and
Uh-huh.
they didn't have internet access at home,
Okay.
and they couldn't be there. They weren't aware that we had hotspots, or that we can get hotspots for the kids. So in the goodness of their heart, they were trying to say, and this is absolutely where it's at. In the goodness of their heart, they were trying to say, hey, we'll make sure you get internet access to do your work from these times to these times. And so, but it's easier to give out hotspots, even though you might lose set hotspot now and again, or Chromebook or whatever. But in these days, and if you can find a Chromebook right now, it's gold.
Yep.
So if things change, we can revisit it.
If things change, we can revisit it, but we have hotspots available. This person just didn't
Okay.
know that, and they were completely, if we wanted to use, trust me, if we wanted to lease out the space in the library, we would do that. There's numerous issues there, actually. But for now, we, just in the distance learning model that we're in, the hybrid model we're in, this person can use, we can get hotspots for these kids. So they just didn't know that. So in a way, we've just actually helped these folks by getting them some hotspots. So it is a mood issue.
Well, good, I'm glad we solved that problem for
Thank
them.
you for bringing it up. I didn't even know. This is the most
Okay.
weird exchange.
But as a follow-up though, if I am hearing that if the school, if some group, or organized group or whatever, for an educational or civic purpose or something like that, is got some kind of bona fide reason they would want to use the space in the library or the space here, that in general this space is closed to the general public, like for a party or a get together or a reunion or whatever, but there are some possibilities out there that the city council would entertain proposals for using it for, I don't know what that purpose is, but
Educational purposes?
My vote right now would be no.
okay.
Okay.
I would have to know what that purpose was.
Okay.
And the library does have several, I mean, they got a huge grant for more hotspots, so hopefully that also would be a possible cure.
That's yeah, because within a month, those kind of questions will come up, and that's fine. And if somebody asks something like that, it's an easy response. But right now, the city council still has got everything closed. There's another city council meeting in a month. If you want to bring up whatever, bring it up at the next city council meeting.
Okay. Sounds good. Excellent. All right. Ridgeview Clinic. Lon and I actually had a call today with CEO and their board chair. You know, because in July we passed a motion to encourage them to open it back up. There's no decision there. They're just like any other medical provider. They're in a unique spot, and they're currently in their what are we going to do, you know, next year from how do we provide care? We know and love Henderson, yada yada. So they know that we're asking questions. We want it open. We want local access and care available. The chamber has also sent a letter that they have received, and so that dialogue is just ongoing. But they're just like every other institution, kind of at this weird spot of what do we do now? What do we do next? What is it going to look like in 1 week, 1 month, 3 months, 1 year? So. But it was real positive. So, you know, the dialogue is open, and we're just going to keep dialoguing as things continue. So, all right, budget and finance. Yeah, what, on what?
Just follow up.
What's that?
Follow up on the question.
Oh, there was, a question? Yeah, sure.
So in reference to the ordinance, I just looked, and I sent Allison, our city attorney, email on May 13th, which said, Allison, I made changes that we discussed to the rental chapter, and I attached, you know, ordinance with that. So just, you know, kind of, you know, maybe I thought to myself, I didn't submit the final version of it, but I did. So this was.
Okay. No,
Thank you.
sounds good.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, budget and finance.
So we met tonight, went over a preliminary budget with Lon.
We've been here since 5.
So I'm looking for a motion on 2020-5 is what you're saying, Randy. Right, I mean, ultimately, you guys have done a preliminary budget, and based on that budget and discussions with Lon, the work has resulted in setting a max levy of 3,537, which would be holding it flat to last year. That's the ultimate conclusion of where we're getting on this, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yes, yep.
If you want to skip to the chase on that, I guess, yeah, depends how much you want to go through.
I mean, would it change the outcome if we discussed it? Would it go lower? No, now, to be fair, Randy and I have been through this for a while, and so I don't have too many questions. I've looked through it and I understand where they're going and what they're trying to do. I'm open to, we could talk for 2 hours on it if you want, but we can talk for very few minutes as well. I just want to respect your time. I know you two have really banged your head against the wall getting this thing to where it is, and I appreciate that effort with Lon. So, but ultimately, that's where we're going, I guess, is where I just wanted to frame the whole thing.
It was a good meeting. We caught a couple of things that didn't get moved into the 2021 budget. $5,000 worth of things, and Lon is just going to do some adjustments to account for that. And yeah, that's really what we
Pretty much what it was, and just
found.
seeing where things are at, seeing, it's always good. It's good to look at the budget versus the actuals at this point, so.
And this isn't our final, this is our preliminary, and we can come, our final will be in December when we set the final.
You can't go higher.
Just can't go higher.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of holding it flat. So.
I think, out of the whole thing, and this is just my input from a budget being on that committee, that just because it's in a department's budget doesn't mean they have to spend it.
Yes, I agree with that logic and that statement, 100%. Okay. Is there any, Randy, Jim, is there anything you wanted to highlight specifically? I mean, you've already highlighted a couple things.
No, it's like some of those things you look at, like snow removal. We talked about that, for instance. Saved money last year, but you're still going to set that line item at what you spent. You want to plan for way more because you don't want to look like the person who didn't have it budgeted for. So, but other than that, no, we didn't. And I don't think there wasn't anything that was a major rise or fall. I didn't think so.
Okay.
I agree, Jim.
So.
Lon, did you have anything to add to that?
No, if that's enough, that's enough. I don't have to go through it.
I'm okay if you go through it. Go for it. I mean,
No, most of the things that I would talk about are what we've already mentioned in, where we were concerned going into the year is how our transfers were going to work, getting beat on a little bit by the auditor last spring, and probably him not fully grasping that there was a plan, that how that was going to work out. And now once December comes, it looks like that plan will be in place. And now all of a sudden we got Allers throwing a bone out that it says I got a better spot to invest
I know,
my money than you've got, so it's went the other way.
that's what I've been saying. He just didn't get it.
Mm-hmm.
We had, so, oh no, that's great. Okay.
And we did talk about quotes from auditors,
Mm-hmm.
but one of the things...
We did talk about that after that meeting.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the things that Abdo Eichenmeyers has had the city doing, Lon and Lindsay, is feeding them stuff throughout the year so that when it comes to the audit, that stuff won't be looked at as thorough or will have already been looked at. So it's almost like we've already committed because we've been feeding all this stuff to them.
Okay.
So if we go out for quotes or bids or whatever you want to call it, the prime time to do that is immediately in January, so that
Okay.
we're not feeding all that to them for no
Right.
reason.
That makes sense. By the way, I would be completely open to that, because I do think sometimes auditors can take their clients for granted, and just it gets routine for them, but it's not routine for us. This is our budget. So, but I would absolutely entertain that come January for sure. So, yeah.
I was just gonna make a motion to,
Okay, we got two motions. One is the budget and two is the preliminary levy. So 20-04 and 20-05.
do you want them together or separate?
Separate, please.
That's what I was gonna do.
Okay. All right.
2020-04 to accept that.
All right. Got a motion here in a second.
Second.
Got a motion in a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. We look for a motion on the levy resolution.
So moved.
Got a motion here in a second.
A second.
Got a motion in a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. Moving right along, the month end is there. I'll be looking for a motion on the month end balances.
I've got to do it on. Month end ones are in the original packet,
Yeah.
and then the bills, you've got most of the bills, came on Friday, except for there's 3 new ones that are out there today. S&K, Newsmeyer got added 1 additional one for $7,180.25. Minnesota Rural Water is new at $389.70. Minnesota BCA is new at $450, and then Townsend or Henderson Independent 90 got added to that.
Okay. All right, so this is the month end, just showing us that we're negative, and obviously this is gonna change significantly here after the funding. So this is what, I'll need a motion on this one first.
I'll make a motion.
All right, got a motion here in a second.
Second.
Motion in a second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, next we'll be looking for a motion on the bills with the additions that Lon just mentioned.
I'll make a motion.
All right, got a motion, can I get a second?
I'll second.
Motion second, any discussion?
I think we've talked about this in the past. So here we are in September, and we're finally getting our snow removal bill from last year.
Who is that? Huh?
Where is that one of the additions or that's in here?
That's in the mail.
Oh, there it is. I see it. Sorry.
And I just think if you can't get your bill to us in 90 days, you don't get paid.
The comment I would add to that is, it's hard for us to budget. I mean, we're approving a budget, and we didn't have last year's snow removal costs as information for next year's budget, and I think that's not helpful for us.
Right.
So, I agree, and we have had this discussion with the exact same vendor. So. Okay. Any other discussion? Otherwise, I'll be looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we pay the bills.
All right, got a motion, get a second.
Second.
Got a motion, second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign. All right. We're on to, well, we actually put our preliminary budget ahead there of our, oh,
Yeah, and the only thing I would add in the stuff that you guys did approve is this levy spreadsheet maybe makes a little more sense. If you pull that out, it was with the stuff in the original packet. This is not saying this is what you have to do, but so right now, we're done through 2021. In 2022, with our negative, you know, and we're gonna get ticks on it again from the auditor, but our negative, we're still gonna have that 301, our PIR fund still gonna be in negative. But next year, the idea would be we're putting 159, we're taking that from, in Fund 301, this year we went from 42,000 last year to 62,000 this year, to where now we're going to go, next year will be 156, and then 159, and then 211. So we're substantially increasing that levy in that account to clear that out. And actually by 2024, if we hold to everything, we should have $110,000 positive balance in there. You know, so the rest of these are all general obligation or special assessment bonds. They're not part of what we just approved for our revenue things, but you can see those pretty much all go away except for Fund 307, which was our tax abatement that we helped or needed to still kind of fund that Oakview Heights setup. And you look at that and you'll think, okay, now we get to 2025 and we got a $341,000 potential levy because all those bonds fall off. The one thing with that is how we finance. We finance all of our public improvements and buildings and equipment through a 5-year capital bond. You know, so basically the reason that that's low is because our equipment's going to be wearing out, I'm going to presume by then. So you're going to need probably a new police car, a new dump truck, you know, whatever. So it's not like you're going to have $200,000.
Well, and the next big thing is going to be whenever they come through here on 19. You know, that's going to be a big one, but that might not be till what, 25, something 25, 26, but that'll certainly come on the books at that point.
So that's kind of more where, I mean, you can view it how you want, but I don't think you want to get to the point in which what you could do. I mean, you could drop the levy real low 1 year, but then you're going to probably have to bring it back up triple 2 or 3 years later. So I think overall your best plan is going to be this 537 plan, and hope that it increases the general fund a little bit, but not very much. The debt stuff kind of goes away. It clears off your funds that are negative cash right now, which are your 250. The 251 by next year should be a positive balance, and then the 301 one should be positive by 2024.
Excellent. Speaking of the Oakview Heights tip one, by the way, the most recent house that got listed sold in a day. The new construction up there, so that's awesome. It's working. So, all right, be looking for a motion on the revised meeting schedule.
No, I need comment out of that. I put that in the new stuff today, and that's what Todd was referring to.
Which one?
The last on the stuff, not in the original packet, but on the one, the information that I put out today should be here. Should be some hand stuff on the back. Nope, another one.
Put it in.
I put it in the one from.
Oh, the other one?
Yep.
Okay.
Thought I did anyway. Yeah. And wrote something on there.
What is
So because of the election, we need to canvass between the 6th and the 13th of November. So there's really no reason, well, not a reason. We have to meet that week anyway. So we can't meet on the 11th because that's Veterans Day. So the 6th is a Friday and the 13th is a Friday. So if you don't want to meet on a Friday, your days are Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday of that week, which would then be the whatever 9th, 10th, or 12th of November.
9th, 10th, or 12th of November?
You know, I'll have to put that in, not as a special meeting, but at least as a notice that that's when our canvassing board is going to be. And that's why Todd had those dates flexible in that bond sale, because we have to decide on when our November meeting is going to be.
That'll just be a special meeting for that?
No, there would be no reason to just have it. I would do a regular meeting, and that would be the only one we would have that month.
Okay.
The 9th possible, the 9th?
I prefer that day too.
You okay with the 9th? I mean,
Yeah.
I'd rather just get it done.
I have fire training, but I can skip it.
It's not the best day for me, but I can make it work.
The 10th or 12th would be awesome.
I can't do it on the 10th.
12th would be the best for me. In that case, I could do the 10th or the 12th better, but
The 12th? I could do the 12th.
Robin?
Yeah, I can make the 12th work.
Awesome.
Okay. So our city council meeting, we're essentially moving to the 12th. Same time? Same location?
Jeff, does that work for you?
It does now. Okay, all right, I'll be looking for a motion on that new revised schedule with updates.
I'll make that motion.
All right, got a motion, get a second.
I'll second.
Got a motion, second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, I'll be looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Got a motion, get a second.
Second.
Second, motion, second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you.
We can go to Brenda.